I don't think any of you have missed that we live in quite difficult times, and it's easy when we're going through rough stuff to just kind of sit around and wait for inspiration to strike. But I don't think that's a good idea, because when we don't have any motivation, the solution is not to stay passive, but rather to start acting, start making changes, doing stuff. We need to take small steps forward, and even though it might be a very small step, any small creative step you're taking forward is important. So to help you with that, I've asked a few friends to share their life-changing synth tips here with us. And I hope that at least one of them will help you get going. My first guest is from a country that has been well represented in this life-changing synth tips series, Sweden. He is an up-and-coming synth YouTuber, he makes excellent tutorials, is a talented music producer, and well, without further ado, here is Sineway.
Hi there, I'm David with Sineway Music, and I'm going to show you a technique that you can apply to any sound to make it much wider. You will need to wear headphones for this. Let's start with a normal synth sound. This is just a sawtooth and a square sub-oscillator. I'm first going to just copy this sound, and I'm going to paste it into track 9 and 10. Then I'm going to pan this one all the way to the left. And then we're going to pan the other one all the way to the right. And then I'm going to make it so that they're playing together, using track layering in this case. So if I play the sound now, you can hear that it sounds identical to the mono sound. So this is where the magic comes in. Now I'm going to make this left sound slightly different. And it doesn't take much at all. Maybe you can tune both a little bit. You can maybe change the oscillator shape. Perhaps you can add some, I don't know. The trick is just to try different things. So now if I play this, you can hear this now suddenly a very wide sound compared to the mono. Nothing. So you might be wondering, could you just add some chorus to this sound to make it wider? So let's try that. This is chorus all the way to the max. I mean, that sounds very different. It's definitely wider than the mono sound, but it's nowhere near this one. So the way I prefer to use binaural sounds is to use it on one sound in a full song, because otherwise it can get a little bit too much. Here's a lead melody that I have, and this is a sound that already has delay, reverb, and chorus, so it's doing its best to be fairly wide. I'm going to introduce the other elements. I want you to pay attention to the lead melody. In fact, just bring everything in there. So this is the full song. Now I'm going to swap the melody out to a binaural counterpart. Here we go. So you can hear that it almost occupies its own space now. Back to mono. It's like it's just fading away in the background. So I'm demoing this on the Digitone 2, but you can use this technique on pretty much any multi-timbral synth or groove box, even samplers. In the DAW, just copy the sound you want to make wider, pan them left and right, and then make some minor adjustments to them so they don't sound identical. So I hope that was useful. It certainly is a lot of fun to play with this. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility. You can get too far, but hey, as long as you're having fun, right? Bo, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thanks for being such a great influence on the synth community. Back to you.
My next guest doesn't really need an introduction, you all know him, but I'll do an introduction anyway. He is the Gen Z synth rizzler, the synth prince that was promised, and his name could be that of a badass Swedish Viking. Here comes no other than Jorb Erövraren.
Hello, my name is Jorb. I love gear. Bo, thanks for having me. And you, oh viewer, no pleasantries for you. We got to get right to the synth tip. So, let's say, I've just got an initialized patch. At the beginning of a song, I want a sort of electric piano-ish sound. So to me, it might be something like this. Actually, just one echo. Then I'll throw in reverb. And this sort of electric piano part is maybe the beginning of the song. And then maybe halfway through or for a bit in the middle, I do something that's more like a string sound. little bit of filter movement. If it's a change you only have to make once, and there aren't that many parameters you need to change, then go ahead and do it, because it's easy to go back. Oscillator 2 goes down, and our shape, and our envelope. And there we are, pretty close to where we were. But if you're lucky enough to have something with a mod matrix, a good one especially like I have here, you can set that up as a sort of macro change, and that's really the tip. Don't think about even two separate sounds as things that have to exist in separate patches. You can tweak it. And especially if you have a mod matrix, you don't have to treat that just like a sort of momentary expression. If it's mappable at all, you can sort of treat it as a macro controller. So if I send that to attack, and I send it to decay, and I send it to the oscillator shape, which will start here and go down. And I send it to the mix of oscillator 2, and that'll go down as well. Now with the mod wheel down, or strings, and with it up, that's really the crux of it. It took me a while to get there, didn't it? But really think about that. This mod wheel can sort of cheat your way to having something like the A and B layers of the polybrute. Don't just think about it as a ton of expression. Think about it as a way to get to an entirely different sound. That's it. My name's Jorb. I love gear.
My next guest will do something a little bit different, and he will convey his message through music and a few well-written words. Before my next guest, I want to jump in here with a piece of advice. Something that has been very inspirational to me. I actually used this technique when I created my patch collections that I sell on my store, is to listen to audiobooks while making sounds. In my case, I listen to some fantasy, the Wheel of Times audiobooks, they are fantastic. But I could also see a historical documentary, for example, being something that you could have on in the background. And it doesn't have to be something that you pay super close attention to. The idea is rather that this helps with the vibe, creating an atmosphere in which you feel more inspired to create. And for me personally, it was really helpful to have this audiobook on while I was creating sounds, as it kind of guided the sound design in a way. So that's just a quick piece of advice, something you can try out. My next guest is someone I have known for almost 10 years now, and he has been a guest on the channel before. He's a great producer, a fellow synth nerd, community member, and someone that I consider a friend.
Hey Bo, it's Matt from the Matt Greer Music Channel. Thank you for inviting me to do another video with you. I always enjoy these. So one sound design technique that really blew my mind when I first understood it was automation, and to be more specific, parameter locking, because when they took the automation concept and added it to a sequencer on a hardware synth or sampler, that to me allowed us to humanize sequencer-based sounds. And today I want to show you an example of that. Okay, so as a quick demonstration, I'm going to use this Syneway Live in Lo-Fi 12. This is a sampler, and it's got a good sequencer on it that allows for a lot of parameter locking. So what I've got here is a sound. It's a basic guitar sample that I got somewhere on the internet. I don't remember. And you can play melodies on it, and it sounds okay. I've got a little reverb and LFO on there, so it's kind of spiced up. But it's when you tie it to the parameter locking of the sequencer that it really becomes almost paradoxically more human. So let me show you. So you can kind of hear there that I'm trying to emulate a performance. So you can hear a little bit more pick bite in certain sections. It's almost like he's got a wah pedal that he's opening up in some parts and clamping down on others. The velocity is up and down. The filter is up and down. The amp is modulated, so some notes are shorter and some are longer. So it basically, I just tried to take sort of a perfect sequence and add a bunch of slop to it. Interestingly enough, a groove that's perfect gets boring after a few bars, but if you make it kind of human, then it's kind of leaves, I don't know, maybe like a surprise around the next corner. So you end up with something kind of like this. Alright, so I hope that inspires you to maybe look at using sampled instruments or even synthesized instruments and using them in a more humanized way. Thanks again for letting me be a part of this. Happy music making. The whole idea with like the life-changing synth tips videos is basically, well, it's sort of a joke because of course like a synth advice might not be like truly life-changing. So, but it's also a very fun way to bring people together. It started as a Summer of Synth thing, but then I thought, you know, why not expand on it? Why not make it a recurring series and also invite you all, community members? So my next guest is a community member. He's an artist, he's a DJ. Here is the one and only Professor Dictabeat.
Hi everyone, I'm Professor Dictabeat. Today I'm going to show a few pointers of what I do when I'm performing live and how I optimize the space in my case. So when you're performing outside, I feel it's important to maximize the real estate in your case, at least to prevent yourself from carrying way too much gear. So what I've done is I've maximized it by using utilities, effects, multi-effects, and filters. Here I have two basically VCOs from Bear Modules, amazing VCOs. I ran them through a buffered mult, and that should play the bass in unison. And then I have another module from Shakmats that changes the pitch. And then I added another VCO that I use for leads. And I use a clock divider to determine whether I want it to be a bass or maybe a lead. But then if you add a little bit of a delay, it already makes it breathe a little bit more. You play around with the filter, give it a little bit more character. And if you want to go crazy, you slap an LFO on it. go. Maybe play around with the filter of the bass. And the nice thing is you can play around with it as much as you want and it'll look cool on stage too. So there. So that's it. I hope my tips help you on your journey. And again, thank you, Bo, for having me on your show. And also shout out to Travarsi because she was on your show a few episodes back. And that's kind of what got me into modules as well. Take care. Bye-bye.
So those were all the life-changing synth tips that I have for you today. But don't worry, I have more videos in this series planned. So episode 3 this year should be out in May sometime, I think. And if you want to, you can check the pinned comments for details if you want to be a part of the series. It would be fun to see more community members join us. Whether you are a synth YouTuber or somebody who just enjoys their synth, or a professional producer or a mix engineer or mastering engineer, if you have something life-changing relating to synths to share, I think that we would all benefit from it. So check out the pinned comment, and as always, have a great day. Talk to you all later.